Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear sisters. My name is Salma. Welcome back to the channel. I'm a mom of six, a homeschooler, and here on this channel we talk about all the different things that are related to building healthy Muslim families and raising Muslim kids. I also run a virtual community called Mommy Mondays, and we just closed our first enrollment for this year, for 2025. Alhamdulillah, we have a beautiful international group of sisters. It's been amazing to meet all of them. We'll open doors again in April, inshallah. But I wanted to share some of the main key takeaways we've had in the discussions with the sisters, and because it's something I've been noticing across the board, and I'm hoping this will also be relatable to the audience here on YouTube, because I think all the mothers are pretty much facing similar issues, right? So when we start talking about building healthy Muslim families, all of us have high goals, right? We want to be as practicing as we can. We want to give our attention to our marriages. We want to give our attention to our children. We want to live healthy lives. We want to achieve so many goals. We bring all this energy and this enthusiasm to the project, but then as we become mothers, things get a bit more complicated, right? Like we find it difficult then to cope, and we kind of figure out, okay, what's wrong with us? Like, why am I struggling here? And so all the sisters in the community, and we are close to 50 sisters in the community, alhamdulillah, at this point, we were sharing all these relatable things. And I think it's important to share that. I think it's important to give mothers that voice, because often we are not seen, and often we're not heard, and often it feels like we're just struggling in isolation, right? And I've talked about the importance of, not being a victim, and just kind of taking that empowered mindset, there are things I can change. So once you know that you're not alone, I think it gives you courage to keep going, and it gives you courage, that's required in building that Muslim family and walking the path less traveled, right? And so there are a couple of things that keep coming up, right? And so I run different Zoom sessions, right, for the different time zones, and then discussion is, not always the same, but certain patterns keep emerging, right? Certain patterns just kind of keep coming up. And so today I wanted to mention three key takeaways, or three key highlights that are necessary for you to kind of shift in your mindset, so you can be that calm and that confident mom that's going to be present for her Muslim family, right? And so number one key takeaway is to redefine self-care. A lot of us know about self-care, right? But I think what has come up in the discussions with the moms is that often we confuse our goals for self-care, right? When we say we want to memorize the Quran, or when we want to, achieve a certain fitness thing, or if we want to complete a certain academic requirement, those are goals. That's not necessarily self-care. Self-care has to do with nurturing ourselves, right? Like self-care has to do with filling our batteries. And so often we are doing all the right things, right? Like we're getting up, we're praying, we are taking care of our children, we are pursuing our goals, right? But then we're wondering why we're exhausted. Like we're wondering why we're not feeling fulfilled, right? Why are we feeling empty? And that's because we haven't, all these goals have required our energy, right? But we haven't really refilled it, right? And so think of self-care as something that has to re-energize you, something that has to give you energy back, something that has to refuel you in order to keep going, right? And so often those are really just the basics that we need to go back to, and think of, think of yourself as a phone, right? That's the first example that comes to mind. Like when you're pursuing your goals, that means you're using all the apps, right? Like you are running, like the programs are running, you are achieving things, right? But in order for the phone to keep running, you need to charge the batteries, right? And you wouldn't get the batteries to get to zero, right? You keep recharging the phone. So you have to think of yourself like, what are the things that you could be doing, or what are the things that you're not doing in order to recharge yourself, right? And so think of self-care as re-energizing and recharging, not necessarily pursuing your goals. I think that's a big one that has come up in the discussion with sisters, because a lot of them have shared, we have these high goals and we keep working at them, but yet we feel empty and we feel tired, and we feel, a lot of the sisters were blaming themselves for procrastination, that they're not getting around to these things. But I think we're just plain exhausted a lot of times, right? So let's go back to the drawing board then, and in terms of self-care, redefine things that bring you energy. What are the things that are going to give back to you? And a lot of times it's just basics: sleep, okay, taking a nap, hydration, good food, right, to nourish yourself, right? So think of the example of the nurtured mother, right? We often have this example of the nurturing mother, like we do all these things that are nurturing to others, but how can we nurture ourselves? Like what are going to be the things that are going to make a nurtured mother, right? And so often those are just back to basics kind of things. So when you feel exhausted, when you feel unmotivated, when you feel like defeated, disappointed, in your daily struggles, think back like, okay, how's my battery health? Can I go back? Do I need to just take a nap? Do I just need to take care of myself? Because I think that will go a long way. So that's the first key takeaway. That's going to make you a better mom, inshallah, if you kind of go back to the basics and take care of your health, inshallah, right? That's the first thing that came up. There's a couple of things, I kind of jotted down, so I just kind of need to refresh. The second key takeaway is to let go of perfectionism, okay? What has come up is that, we have high goals and aspirations, but we kind of set the bar so high that it becomes an all or nothing thing, and then we kind of then end up avoiding the thing that's in front of us because we cannot do it perfectly. And as many of you know, as moms, nothing can be done perfectly anymore, right? Children are constant interruptions. There's always, we're not even in charge of our own bodies anymore, right? Like in terms of pregnancy, in terms of breastfeeding, right? And so there's a lot of interruption, there's a lot of stuff that gets in the way, right? And so if we're expecting perfection, if we're expecting that quiet moment to, let's say, start cooking, or if we're expecting the perfect timing to align so we can, get to our Quran reading, it will never happen, right? We will just put ourselves on hold. And I think that's where a lot of mothers feel stuck. Like this has come up a lot, like mothers feeling stuck, mothers feeling trapped, because they feel like, okay, we cannot ever get around to any of the things that we care about. And a lot of us have really wonderful goals and wonderful aspirations, but we just feel like, okay, I can't do it anymore the way I used to, right? So we have to switch our mindset from this perfectionist all or nothing, but rather just like, hey, let's get whatever I can get done. Done is better than perfect, right? And so maybe it's small chunks, maybe it's only a couple of ayahs, maybe it's only a few minutes, exercise, maybe it's only the imperfect things, right? But I think especially when we hold ourselves to high standards, which is amazing, then it's hard to kind of get it done at a lower standard. And I think often we just kind of really harsh and judgmental towards ourselves. So I kind of suggest to, employ a lot of kindness and a lot of curiosity and a lot of compassion towards yourself, and just kind of say, hey, things are really hard. And what has come up a lot is that moms of really young kids, of multiple children, under 6 or under 8, they are just saying, oh, well, how come we're not getting things done? How come I'm so tired? How come this is a season of life, right? And that's just how things are in that season of life. And I think we need to talk more about that, so other sisters kind of have a measuring stick of like, what's happening. Because when a sister comes up and she's just had a 2-week baby, and their sisters there would have like multiple children under the age of 6, and they're beating themselves up for not accomplishing X, Y, and Z, I think it's quite normal to just kind of notice, hey, that is seeking perfection, that's seeking the impossible, right? And that's almost like a plot from Shaitan to just kind of get us to give up, because we're seeking this perfection, we're seeking this all or nothing mindset, and then we end up doing nothing, right? And that's when we end up kind of giving up and saying, hey, this Islamic lifestyle is not possible, it's not for me, right? So the second key highlight takeaway we've had this week is to kind of let go of perfection, to just kind of settle for good enough, right? And just kind of saying, hey, I'm doing okay in this season of life, right? Like I'm alhamdulillah, to lean into that gratitude. Hey, I'm doing the best I can. I'm grateful for the things Allah has blessed me with. It's okay. All right. So I think that's something that has come up multiple times in the discussion with the sisters, and I'm hoping you guys here on YouTube can relate to it as well, right? Number 3 is just, the most common sense thing, but that has come up a lot in the discussion, is to strengthen your support system, right? And which is funny, because I just did a video about like, okay, don't wait for your support system, don't be a victim. Don't wait for others to save you. But what I mean by it here, and what I've said in the other video as well, we have to be proactive about it, right? Like we have to tell other people that we need help. And I think a lot of us have been burned. A lot of us have been helped in a way that's not helpful, right? A lot of us are kind of choosing to do this alone because we don't want the toxicity from the village, right? And so, but we now have to build that conscious other village, right? Like we have to reach out for that community. We have to communicate with our spouses. We have to communicate with those around us what kind of help we exactly need. Like we cannot do this alone, and there's no harm in getting help, right? But often other people don't even know what kind of help we need. And this is where, the discussion on Mommy Mondays has happened. It has helped a lot of sisters just to define, okay, what it is that we need. Sometimes we don't need other people to tell us how to parent our children, but we need them to maybe take the kids out for outing, right? So we can take a nap, nap, or we need them to help us in practical ways, right? And so I think it's important to just kind of realize, hey, I need to reach out to someone, I need some more help. And I think just even plain communication with your spouses, like, just telling them, hey, the reason why I'm not getting around to making dinner on time is because the kids have been super cranky whole day. I couldn't put the toddler down whole day. I didn't even get to go to the bathroom. It's just been a really hard day, right? And I think that communication starts first with our awareness of what we need and how we're feeling, right? And so support is necessary, right? And a lot of us, maybe the sisters have communicated, a lot of us feel trapped, a lot of us feel stuck because we feel like the spouses are not as supportive as they could be, or a lot of them have said that, the husband has promised to be a certain way, and then once the children have arrived, he hasn't really shown up. So there might be some disappointed in trying to communicate, your needs, because you feel like, okay, well, I've already said this one, but keep going. Like, you need that support. And if not within your family, try to seek help, through other sisters. And you being at this channel and looking up at these videos, how to be a meta mom, indicates to me that you are in search of help, that you are in search of support. And that's amazing. And that's a great first step, that you're recognizing, hey, I cannot do this alone. I need a community, right? And so we've had obviously a lot more discussions this week. It's been amazing meeting the sisters, but these are kind of the three main takeaways, the three main shifts in our thinking that we've had to kind of do and that we're practicing in the Mommy Mondays community. Just kind of redefining what self-care means, like how can we really fuel and charge our batteries, letting go of the perfectionism, settling for good enough, being kind to ourselves, being compassionate to ourselves, and then looking for ways to strengthen our support system, looking for ways to communicate with those around us what kind of help we exactly need as moms. And there's no shame in asking for that help, because Islam is not a religion that's meant to be practiced in solitude. It's meant to be practiced in a community, right? And so I think when we're not satisfied with the way that help in the community is going, we need to be proactive and reach out. And so I'm hoping this is helping. This is kind of the main things that have been shared in the Mommy Mondays community, and I will continue to kind of share some bits and snippets over it here on YouTube. And I'm hoping to see you, inshallah, in the next video, where most likely I'll be talking about screen time, because that's one that keeps coming up. So stay tuned for that one, inshallah. All right, take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.